Greetings, pet lovers. Bridget here with First Street Pets, and today we're going to talk about myths and scams in lost pet recovery. When you lose a pet, it can be a frightening and upsetting and emotional experience. It's difficult enough looking for your missing pet or helping someone look for their missing pet without the interference of scammers or without following search methods that are not proven to be effective. You want to focus your efforts on search methods that are effective and not waste time and energy on things which are not. One of the most common myths in lost pet recovery, one that just will not die, is the dirty litter box. Literally every time there's a post on a social media site about a missing cat, someone posts, "Put the dirty litter box out. They can smell it from a mile away and they'll come right home." Okay, so there's so many things wrong with that statement, I don't even know where to start. First of all, if you've watched our other videos about lost pet recovery, most cats are not actually lost. They're stuck somewhere, they're at someone else's house, they've been picked up by animal control, or they're a close distance from home. They just can't get back for one reason or another. So usually it's not because a cat can't find their way back. Something has happened to them so that they cannot get back. A litter box is not going to draw them back. Cats can smell things in an incredible manner, just like dogs. They have such more refined senses than we do as people. So something as stinky as a cat box is not going to attract them any more than the smell of you coming in and out of your house or all the other smells in and around your house. In any case, I don't argue with people about this one anymore because they are going to believe what they're going to believe. But I will say that if folks are really focused on this, they need to not do it as their only method. This is one of the things that we call a passive method, where they put the box out, they say their prayers, and they hope for the best. Okay, so if you really want to do that, I can't stop you. But you need to take other steps that are more effective and that are detailed in our other videos. So another myth about both cats and dogs is that pets go away to die. This is another old timer, and this is based on human beliefs of religion and afterlife and a spirit world. And we don't really know what animals believe or don't believe. All we know is that they live their lives from day to day in the physical world, and that's all they know. So there wouldn't be any motivation for them to go away and die to save you the heartache of seeing them die, or whatever the reasoning is behind this belief. The frightening reality is that many of these animals who supposedly go away to die actually are ill or injured. They've been hit by a car, or they're quite old, they're in kidney failure. So yes, they will die if they are not found and given medical attention, but you need to be out there actively looking for them. I have seen so many cases over the years where very often with old animals. I've seen it with old dogs, like the farm dogs that live on the property. They're not fenced, they know where they live, and they're well trained. But as they become elderly, they start to get confused. They wander away. They can't remember how to get back. They fall in a ditch and get stuck. So if your pet is missing and you haven't had any sightings, especially if they're elderly or have health issues, you need to be out there actively looking and not just making an assumption that they have gone away to die. Another myth that we hear a lot, which has a grain of truth in it, is that my pet was killed by a predator. Usually in the United States, it's coyotes. Coyotes are everywhere, and people think, especially cats or small dogs, were killed by coyotes. Now, while predation does happen on pets, it's actually extremely uncommon in most places. Now, there are places like the Los Angeles area where coyotes have lived for many generations very close with people. And in that area, coyotes will attack and kill pets. They will attack children and even adults sometimes, because coyotes learn the hunting behavior from their parents, from their family. And so if they've been taught to target these kinds of animals, that's what they will do. But most coyotes and other animals eat their natural prey, whether it's deer, rabbits, snakes, whatever it is that they normally eat. It's going to be very unlikely for them to come into town close to people and attack a pet animal like a cat that has teeth and claws and can seriously injure them. So again, while it's possible, it is pretty unlikely in most parts of the country and the world. Now, the danger of this myth is that, again, just like with the cat box, if people believe that that has happened, they're going to stop looking. They're going to say, oh, he probably died. And then they stop looking when their cat could be at a shelter, on hold at a shelter, in danger of being euthanized. You need to be out there looking. Your cat could be at a neighbor's house a couple doors down. You need to be talking to your neighbors to find out what happened. Or your cat could be ill or injured, or your dog, and could be at a veterinary hospital and they can't locate you. So any of these kinds of assumptions are dangerous for that reason. So this category is kind of in a realm somewhere between myth and scam, because it kind of depends on the individual, and that is pet psychics. Now, there's no doubt that some people do have extraordinary abilities, and I have certainly had experiences myself of a spiritual nature, as I'm sure many of us have. But the danger in relying on a pet psychic is that you may take their advice above following the practical methods that we know will bring a lost pet home in most cases. Now, some pet psychics are very sincere. They really believe that they are helping people and they're doing their best and telling you what they think is true. Others may just be saying whatever they want and looking for a buck. There's no way to know the difference. The concern is that, again, you will spend money on these services and kind of hyper-focus on what they tell you and not look where you need to be looking. And in one extreme example of this happened through the organization Mission Reunite that I work with. This was many years ago before I was involved in the organization, but it's one of the stories we tell, that a woman was missing her cat and she hired a psychic, and the psychic told her the cat is out in a field or something and described the area where the cat was. So she was focusing all her efforts on that. We asked her, or the folks in the organization at the time asked her, well, have you gone to the shelter? And she said, well, no, because the psychic said my cat is out in this field. So she had not even checked the shelter once. And amazingly, as it turns out, as we found out later, she has a cat-hating neighbor who had previously trapped her cat and taken it to the shelter. So that was a case where it was very likely that her cat was at the shelter. I don't know what the outcome was. That was many years ago. But that's just kind of an extreme example of what can happen if you hyper-focus on one method instead of doing techniques that we know are effective. Now, if you want to do that and it's in your budget, that's fine. I'm not here to tell people what they should or shouldn't believe, but use it as a tool along with all the others that are proven effective. And now we get into the real dirty scams. And sadly, scammers and con men have been out there since the beginning of humanity, and they will take advantage of any person that is in a vulnerable situation, including those who have lost a pet. Now, one of the most common scams we see is called the truck driver, and there are probably versions of it not involving pets, but the ones that we know about, where someone will call or text the pet owner, and usually they're getting your phone number from a sign that you've put out or a post on social media or something like that. They find out that you're missing the pet. They see the picture of your pet. They will call or text and tell you that they have your pet. And then when you ask to get it back, they will say, well, I'm a truck driver and I was driving through town and now I'm, 200 miles away and I need you to send me money to get the pet back. So as soon as they start asking for money, you can pretty well bet that it's a scam. And what I always suggest to people, if someone says that they have their pet, is say, send me a picture. In today's world, everyone has a phone that can take a picture. Even if you have a really basic phone, you can take a picture and send it in a text. So if someone can't do that, they don't have your pet. I have seen so many stories of this in the news. I have talked to people personally who've had this experience, and it's just awful. Some people do send money because they're so desperate and they believe the story, whatever it is. So they send the money by Western Union or some way that can't be tracked. And all of a sudden they're out hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're no closer to finding their pet than they were before. In one terrible example, a man who called our organization asking for help said that the caller said if he didn't give them money, they were going to kill the dog. And of course, they weren't able to produce a picture or anything like that. Person was just very threatening and saying these horrible things. And the poor guy was so upset. He said, I didn't tell my wife. I know she'll get really upset. But I assured him, there's no way this person has your dog. They're just making up a story. They're looking for money. Don't tell your wife because she will get upset and maybe she'll send the person money. But if they can't produce a picture, there's no chance that they have your pet. Pet detectives. So while there are a lot of volunteers out there, and that's one of my goals when I work with the nonprofit mission Reunite, is to train people to volunteer as pet detectives or to use those skills as part of their jobs in an animal shelter or rescue. It's very important to me to have teams all over the country. In a perfect world, there would be a team at every shelter in every city in the country and all over the world, but that's a dream. We do the best we can for the people who are interested in these kinds of programs. But there are pet detectives out there who are actually running a business and that are legitimate. I know some myself that are very reputable, that are licensed and insured and do everything legally and will do their best to help you. And more importantly, will really do an assessment as to whether you need their services, because a remote consultation might be in one price range that's affordable for many people, but for the pet detective to actually fly out with the dog team and all that can get up into the thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's something that a reputable pet detective will discuss with you first to see if that's an option that suits you. Now, unfortunately, there are many, many disreputable folks out there calling themselves pet detectives. They are probably not licensed. They are probably not properly trained. And I know of some cases that I have handled personally where these people have given away lots of money. These pet owners have given lots of money to these pet detectives, thousands of dollars, and were led on a wild goose chase. For example, one man lost his elderly Rottweiler, can hardly walk, hired a pet detective who took her tracking dog out to where the dog was last seen and claimed that the dog had gone for miles and miles down to the beach. This is on the coast in California, down a highway for like 2 miles. This dog could hardly walk. This was an elderly dog. So the chances of this happening were highly unlikely. And of course, this search didn't come up with any clues for him. He didn't find the dog. So I was able to hook him up with a reputable pet detective who he did hire to come out and unfortunately found some remains. There wasn't much, but found something that they pretty well thought was the remains of that dog that would have told them that he wandered off into the bushes and probably died that first day from a stroke or, some kind of medical event. That's why the dog just disappeared on a walk and was never seen or heard from again. So unfortunately, this gentleman who loved his dog and wanted to get him back wasted a lot of money and time on a service that was not helpful. Now, you may also have people who really mean well. They're not trying to rip you off. Maybe they don't even charge, or they charge a really nominal fee like $50 or $100. But sometimes these people aren't properly trained. Their dogs aren't properly trained. And so again, they're going to waste your time. So definitely look into volunteer services through animal shelters and rescues and people who can help you over the phone. But the kind of folks who are going to come out and physically search for you, especially if you're going to pay them, definitely do your homework, look them up, find reviews on Yelp or any place else where there might be reviews. Now, most businesses will have a bad review or two, but if there's a lot and they're kind of saying the same thing over and over again, you may want to think twice about hiring that person. But again, as I said, there are some great volunteers out there. There are some services that are reputable. Just do your homework to make sure that if you're hiring someone, you're going to get your money's worth. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about isn't really a scam because you are getting a service that you pay for. And these are those kind of paid services you see on the internet. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to make negative statements about named businesses, but you know what I'm talking about. If you search under I lost my dog, I lost my cat, how do I find a lost dog on a Google search? All the first ones that are going to pop up are all the paid ads. And they do offer some services for you, like posting on Facebook, boosting posts on Facebook, sending out flyers, doing robocalls, making signs for you, and things like that. But quite often the charges are pretty high for these services, and these are all things you could do yourself, either for free or for very inexpensive. You know, you can boost a post on Facebook for like $10. So these are all things that you could do yourself or with the help of your friends or with volunteers from the animal shelter. And you may not necessarily need to pay for these. So definitely look into these services if you think it's something that can help you, but be sure to read the fine print and see what you're getting, because I don't see that these services are going to give you a lot of good leads on finding your lost pet, and it may be money wasted that could be better spent. So I highly recommend that you watch our other videos on finding lost pets. I will link them in the description. And the purpose of this video is to help you understand that unfortunately there are a lot of myths and scams out there, and that you need to be careful, especially when you are vulnerable and upset and looking for a missing pet. I hope this information is helpful for you. Please like and subscribe. If you hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification every time we upload a new video. We do a lot of content on lost pet recovery, as well as other important pet topics like pet businesses, pet sitting, and general pet care information.